All right, this episode of Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit, is brought to you by Aloe Recovery in Malibu and in Silver Lake. Aloe Recovery is a beautiful rehab owned by our friend Bob Forrest and our friend Evan Haynes and their friend Bob. They have a multidisciplinary care team with a psychiatrist, master's and doctoral level therapists to treat co-occurring and underlying mental health problems, including SMI. They have state-of-the-art pharmacology to make your detox as comfortable as possible, which is very important. Trust me on that. Very important. They have amazing amenities: surfing, horseback riding, sweat lodge, sound bath meditations, all at Aloe Recovery. But mostly the thing about Aloe that's special is that they treat their clients with respect and kindness. I've been to a million terrible detoxes where I never was treated well. And I have a buddy who just went to Aloe who said it was great. So if you're fucked and you need help and you're in California, you should go to Aloe. This show is also brought to you by our friends at Just Coffee Co-op. That's justcoffee.coop, an amazing coffee company that is justice from the grounds up. Not only are they a company that practices social justice with South American coffee growers, the coffee's fucking good. I have to say, the Just coffee is very good. I said on the last episode I bought a coffee grinder and a French press to make some bougie coffee. I haven't used it yet, but I have made with the ground coffee. I've had it at my dad's. We had the Maya Super Dark, which was excellent. The Humdinger, which is light, very good also. And the Ariba, medium ground, medium blend, whatever you call it. Really, really good coffee. Beautiful packaging. If you use the code DOPEYPOD, so that's justcoffee.coop, and you use the code DOPEYPOD, you save some money, but mostly you support the show. If you love coffee, most addicts really like coffee. I like coffee. If you love coffee and you love Dopey, you should get your coffee from justcoffee.coop. On Reddit, there was this whole thing about justcoffee.coop. Is it good coffee? Is it shitty coffee? The coffee's good. You're supporting the show, you're supporting social justice, and you're getting a good cup of coffee. All right, now that that's out of the way, we're going to get to the show. This is a very exciting show for me. I haven't done a show with a friend in person in a long time. And now this is an old friend, my friend Peter. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave.
You're doing shtick already?
No, I know this is an entertainment show, partially, right?
Mostly.
So I'm going to...
You're going to be entertaining?
I'm going to try my hard. No, I am going to... Obviously, you have to try hard in any endeavor that you want to succeed in. And I will try my hardest to be funny and entertaining in this show.
Okay, well, don't try too hard.
No, I'm going to try as hard as I can.
Well, listen, I've known Peter... when do you think we met?
I don't know.
Think about it. I can remember what this is my memory of meeting Peter. I was 14 years old. I was in high school, junior high school on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and Peter was a thin, bespectacled young man who could sing and was in musical theater in our school.
I was only in musical theater because of the female influence in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I would never have done that on my own volition.
So explain. So you did it to get girls, or you did it because you liked the girls in the theater?
No, because my girlfriend at the time was in all the musical plays, so I just decided to go in too.
Well, here's the question. The thing about Peter, and I'm going to do this in a weird sort of way. Peter played in bands. Peter wrote songs. He was the singer in bands. But you were the singer in the plays. But so did you? You were in those plays, Bye Bye Birdie and Kiss Me Kate and shit, weren't you?
This is getting the show off to a terribly boring start, isn't it? Do you think anyone cares about this?
I don't. This is for my doing.
Yeah, I was in all the stupid high school plays that every high school does.
But you could sing.
Sure, yeah.
So, but you didn't get in because your girlfriend was in. You got in to sing.
No, but I'm saying anyone could get in. I did it because she was there.
I think you're right. I think this is a terrible start to the show. Yeah. But I don't care.
No one cares.
And the other thing is that Peter isn't even an addict.
Right. And but the people are like, before people are clicking off, they're like, why?
Nobody clicks off.
I knew Todd well. I knew Davey well in his formative years as an addict. I lived with Davey and Todd for about 6 months. I think longer. In the throes of their I would say not at the work, because when it was going down, I couldn't, even I, as messed up as I was then from depression and everything, had to bail. And so when you were at your worst, we weren't in contact. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a terrible falling out.
Yeah, not really.
You don't remember the falling out, but I do.
It wasn't really a falling out.
It was a falling out.
No, it wasn't a falling out. It was just that you were like a massive addict, and I was messed up too because of my life, not because of drugs. But we had a falling out.
We had a big falling out.
No, we didn't.
We did.
Not like a.
We did. I don't remember the detail.
No, there
was an occurrence. You want to hear the occurrence? I'll try to jog your memory.
Okay.
And between the two of our adult brains,
all right,
we can come up with
okay.
Something. What I remember is this. I had an apartment. Right now, we're at my father's house on 27th Street.
Right.
When Peter lived with Todd and I, it was an apartment on 24th Street. It was a studio apartment. Todd was living with me. I don't know. Why did you wind up there?
Because I needed a place to live, and I don't remember. I don't remember.
So Peter needed a place to go. I was like, and we had started in a new band. Like that was going to be this psychedelic dance hall band with improvisation, like something like what?
That's what the hell are you talking about?
Our band.
Which one? The Ulti Scrub Hustle?
The Ulti Scrub Hustle.
It was just like a couple of kids writing songs. It wasn't like a psychedelic. What the hell are you talking about?
Because we had dance hall beats and there was some psychedelic stuff on top of it.
Okay.
No. How would you describe it?
It was the Good So Bad song that came from that band, right?
Good So Bad.
Yeah, from that's not a psychedelic.
And the theme song to Dopey, the front song.
Those aren't psychedelic dance hall songs. Those are just like...
You remember when we played, and it was... It's going to embarrass you. You can't handle this kind of thing.
No, I can. I'm just like, what are you talking about?
We played the fucking...
The pig roast?
Low beat, and then you sang the Midnight Rider stuff on top of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but that was just like fucking around.
Very nice. It was very, very nice. It was,
okay.
So anyway, we were in this band. We had played in bands for years, and I think that's why you wanted to stay in my house.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I do, and at some point, I'm sure we had like a quote unquote falling out, but it wasn't a real falling out. It was just that like,
well, I was fucked up.
Yeah, and eventually,
it was a falling out though. What happened was this: my parents were away, and see, I don't understand the logistics of this story, but the story was this: my parents went away, and you wanted to spend the night alone with your girlfriend, and I said. Me being an idiot, I said, you can use my parents' apartment.
Right.
I'm sorry, Dad, because he's definitely listening. I said, you can use my parents' apartment, but you can't sleep there.
Okay.
And you came over, and I think you had sex with your girlfriend on the floor, because you couldn't have had sex in my parents' bed. That would be terrible.
Right.
And then you didn't leave.
Okay.
And the next day, I came to check on you, and you had left, and everything was all fucked up.
Oh, that's not true. I'm very respectful.
I went crazy.
No, okay.
I went crazy, and then you went and you slept on the train. You don't remember that? You're putting it back together.
No,
now?
I'm sure that this episode, in whatever way, happened. But the point is that, like, the reason we stopped hanging out was not because of any one episode like that. It was because,
No, that was a huge.
I'm sure it was the catalyst. It was a
huge,
but shit like that happened every day or every week when we were hanging out.
What do you mean?
There was like crazy incidents like that every week.
Can you think of any?
No, because I forgot them all, but I just remember it was like a chaotic time. You know what I mean?
It was a very chaotic time.
Yeah,
So it wasn't why don't you paint the picture of what our life was like then?
It was like, we I guess in some like diluted way had, dreams and hopes for the future as most people do at that age. And
we're talking like 23, 24.
Yeah. So I had my issues because I grew up in kind of a crazy family, and I had gotten off my academic trail. I wasn't into drugs, but like people used to say that I was like a crackhead without the crack, and like whenever I would when I was like staying at your house, I just remember like no one believed me that I wasn't doing drugs with you guys. Like I would tell like I don't want to say can I say their last names of our friends?
Okay. Last name.
I would tell like Jim and other people. They would be like, I'd be like, no, I actually don't do drugs at all, and they would just look at me like, how can you lie? How can you lie? Oh, not even smoking weed was just because because you wanted me to, because you would always be like, hey, you want a binger, dude?
I would never say you want a binger.
That's what you would call it.
I'd say a bong hit. I'd say bong hit. I would never say binger.
But anyway,
that would be Todd though. Todd might say that.
Yeah. So my point is that, but and we might have been able to make a nice life for ourselves, except that, you and Todd were deep in heroin addiction, right? And like nothing happened. Like you would have ideas for a show and we would be at your house and, you'd be nodding out. And then in the middle of the night or the nod, you'd go like, hey dude, you want to write some questions for the game show? And I'd be like, okay, fine. And he'd be like, all right, give me a second. And then, you'd nod out for another hour and a half, and nothing would happen. So it was.
So I had dreams of doing a show back then.
Well, of course. I was
making a show.
Yeah. You always had game show ideas and shit like that. And but it was just like nothing would happen. And so in that kind of life, all those kinds of quote unquote incidents, the one you just described, naturally happen. So the one that you're referring to as our falling out, I'm sure it happened, but stuff like that happened all the time, and it was that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but mostly just because it was hard to it was just like nothing, even as messed up as I was, nothing happened when we hung out, you know what I mean? Except we would walk around Chelsea.
We walked around a lot.
Yeah.
But we also Peter and I when I became friends with Peter, I'm still a year younger than Peter, and because I don't think I'll ever catch up until Peter dies, but or I died. Maybe I'll never catch up.
Yeah, I'm actually honest. I would like to just take this time to say that I'm serious. I'm not kidding. I'm very proud of you for having overcome what you've overcome. And I definitely, at one point, just assumed that you were going to die of an overdose or whatever it is that kills addicts, because you were so deep in it. You know what I mean?
So deep.
Yeah. So I was like, if
What do you remember? I mean, I want to talk about
I just remember thinking because there were so many years that you were, addicted, and I just remember I didn't know anything about drug addiction except for, what I knew about the news, but I was like, obviously, if anyone's going to die, he's going to die, because you were one of these people who was just doing tons of drugs, didn't seem like there was any hope, and yeah, so I'm proud of you and very pleasantly surprised. Obviously, that's an understatement. I'm not expressing myself well, but I'm trying to say something nice to you. What, is my mic on?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question is, what was it like to not be on drugs in a house with two total drug addicts, heroin addicts? We were doing pills, we were doing heroin.
Yeah, it was
all the time.
It was at times. It was fun 20% of the time, and then incredibly not boring the other percent of the time, because I was depressed myself, but nothing happened. We would sit there and there would be a few jokes that would pop up over the course of a few hours while you guys were on the nod, and so that would be mildly fun, but mostly nothing happened. You know what I mean?
But I mean, Todd was, my favorite, the story that pops into my head, I've even told on Dopey, was when Todd was delivering weed.
Yeah.
And every day
that's right.
He would go out and he'd come back to the apartment before he went on his run to pinch all the boxes of weed. And Peter thought that was the funniest thing in the world, because Todd was really a character.
He really was. I mean that in a positive and negative sense. And I remember when when I first met him, I didn't like him, and then Todd told you that I was not nice to him, and then you were like, Todd doesn't like you because you're not nice to him. And I was like, of course I'm nice to him. You were like, no, you're not. And yeah, because it was now I have
nice
much. I know, but the reason was because he was the quintessential He really was from central casting of the suburban kid who just only wanted to get high and had dentist parents who had no idea how this happened to them, and he's exactly that type, you know what I mean? And he was just a born suburban upper middle class drug addict, yeah.
Yes.
Which is,
but he had really good characteristics.
Of course, and I didn't appreciate
incredibly lovable.
I didn't appreciate the good characteristics until later, because when I was young too, and I was inexperienced, I just met him at first, and I was like, oh man, this guy is I saw him for what he was, and it made me uncomfortable, feel weird about myself, you know what I mean?
What did it make you feel about yourself?
That I was headed down the wrong path in life, you know what I mean? Or a path that was destructive.
Well, if you need to know the truth about Peter here, we're talking about, we're 23, we're 24. Peter is incredibly thin. He has hair that's like 2 feet out from his head.
It wasn't that thin.
He people assumed he was on drugs.
Yes, all the time.
Because he looked like he was on drugs and homeless simultaneously.
Any concert I went to, people would always be asking me for drugs, and then when I would say that I didn't have any, they would like get offended and mad at me. And then constantly.
And Peter and I had played in bands together from when we were like, you started a band when you were like 16 or something. I started playing the next year or something. And we played, I mean, you could shake your head and make all these weird squirmy, but we did that every week. I know.
Years. Well, yeah. I mean, I still love music. I love music. It was just like it was like a distraction. You know. I mean, that's the thing. Is that like drugs? I guess people use drugs because they're the easiest and simplest way to to distract yourself from life. You know, it's just like a pill or a powder. You take it, you feel good, and it's like the distilled, form of that. But people can distract themselves in any of many other ways, like through television or through doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I mean, you can get addicted to lots of things. It just seems like drugs are the easiest way to do that. You know what I'm saying?
But you're saying that playing in a band was something, a distraction.
Yes.
You see, this is why you have your problem. Because it was actually pursuing something that you love to do. You were hanging out with your friends. You were creating music. And now, 20 years later, 25 years later, you say it was a distraction.
Because I knew it was something that I shouldn't have been doing. In the same way that, like, there's some people who can, like, do various drugs and have a good time with it, and other people know that it's something they shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of things in life that you do that you feel compelled to do that you shouldn't be doing. Drugs is a perfect example of that, but there's other things that people do that they know they shouldn't be doing also,
Now, this is a very chaotic interview, because I think it's time to talk about some more important stuff to go down this path before the
Is this not gonna? Are they gonna appreciate this? Do you think they're gonna be entertained by it a little bit?
I think so. I think we'll get there. Peter Peter suffers with depression.
Well, yes, yeah.
And I think that this kind of take on our beautiful band as teenagers, and you look at it as like a distract. It's like, this is depression.
Because it was different. Because I think that because these people has your audience heard the songs that you've written? I mean, I think we're doing something that you should have been doing. I mean, your songs are great, and I'm not just saying that because I'm your friend. There's a lot about you that I would criticize.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and I might in this interview. Okay.
You want to just get it out of the way?
What, my impression of you?
You want to get your impression of me out of the way, or your criticisms of me out of the way?
Okay. First of all,
this is your impression. I just want to Dopey Nation. This is Peter. Peter's been doing this impression for 25 years. It might have been accurate when I was totally stoned and young, but here, do your impression.
I hate you. I hate Todd, but I hate you more. You think I'm kidding? But I'm not kidding.
It's not a good impression.
It is.
You really
trust me.
It was funny then, though, right?
It's still funny, Dave. No, I don't know. I will have to listen to. Yeah, and I definitely remember when you did start to recover. Actually, no, because that really was an accurate impression. I mean, you were like massively negative all the time, and when you did start to recover, I definitely noticed it. I didn't put two and two together. I thought it was just like a one-time thing or whatever. But your attitude absolutely changed after you got better, and I definitely noticed that. And it was like you became a positive person when you were a junkie. You were completely negative all the time.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Because my only source of positivity was getting drugs or getting high. And if I wasn't getting, and then even getting drugs and getting high after a while didn't affect me positively.
I know.
But like, when I think about, we had a band, it was called the Percolators in high school. And we did nothing. Nothing happened with it. But we had a studio on 14th Street, and I think it was probably the summer of 1991.
Giant studios. Everyone had a room in there. Yeah.
And it was this amazing studio on 14th Street between 6th and 7th. I think we paid like $200, yeah. And we had 24 hours, 7 days a week access to this room.
Unheard of nowadays. Although across the street from where we are right now, there's actually a sex store that looks like old New York.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre.
Like, how do they make money?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
The funny thing about that is there used to be like a great deli there, and it closed down, and then this pizza place was opening, and my dad says, I think I want to open a pizza place and call it Erotic Pizza. My dad said that. Like, I was like, what are you fucking talking about? And then the next day, that sex store opens up. And I've gone in there to put Dopey cards.
Wait, it's opened up recently?
No, it probably opened up 5 years ago.
No, but that's what I mean, recently.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like some store from like the 80s that just somehow has survived.
It reminds me of like a place in Amsterdam. It's like got weird screens like with women in lingerie. I went in there to put Dopey stuff in there, and it's like they're selling like VHS tapes. Like, I don't know what the fuck keeps that place.
Yeah, it could be a money laundering thing, front for something.
I know, but like, why not do
something
a nail salon
or a grocery store? You might actually make some money.
It's just bizarre. But anyway, Giant Studio was this cavernous, amazing place. And I remember, that's when I started smoking weed, that summer. And I remember, like, I don't know if you, yes.
I actually, just when you said that, I actually now in my brain do remember the first time you did heroin, because you called me the next day.
Really?
Yeah. You said, I did heroin last night. And I was like, all right, great. And you were like, it was beautiful.
No way.
Yes, you did.
No
and you
way.
said, I'm lying in bed now. The sun's shining through my window. It's beautiful. And I was like, all right, great.
You're like, all right.
Yeah. I was like,
you're a fucking idiot.
But you did tell me, you called me the first day after you did heroin. And I guess I should have.
No, that was not the first day. Because I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
That was, the first day I did heroin was in school, and I got really sick.
Oh my God.
That was after Todd and I did it in that apartment with a bunch of people from my college.
Okay.
What was I going to say? But I want to talk about Giant Studios.
Yeah, go ahead.
And like I remember we went to some like West African festival in Brooklyn, and we'd get stoned, and then we'd go back and play songs, and that, the Slackers are a pretty big band.
Yeah,
they
sure.
studio with us.
Oh, tons of bands had. I mean, that was a famous studio.
What were the bands that were there?
Oh my God! Like, just look at like a
Giant Studio T-shirt.
No, one of the old like Wetlands, ads, and like 75% of those bands probably had a room in Giant Studios.
But it was, I mean, for me, it was a very like. I mean, I was raised probably exactly the opposite that Peter was raised. Like, I was raised in a crazy, overprotective, like middle class house. We were both Jewish.
They were overprotective?
So overprotective.
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't like allowed to take the bus when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to do like a lot of stuff. And when I started playing in Peter's band, it was like unbelievably exciting for me.
No, it was fun. Yes, you're right.
And like when we would go to that room and we would play,
yeah,
it was just like the coolest thing in the world to me.
Yes, it was fun. I mean, I admit that. Yes, and I wish I had had it together enough to appreciate it more
well,
at the
time. Well, of course. I think that's how bands actually make it.
Yeah.
Like they have the ability and will and like ambition, and they have it together. And
yeah, exactly. Having it together is the most important thing in so many things in life. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have it together, you have no chance, no matter what your talent is. And if you have it together, you can be like an asshole and not that talented. You'll probably do well for yourself. You know what I mean? Having it together and just not freaking out is like the most important thing in life, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't have it together for most of my life, and I don't even know if I think I'm getting it together now.
All I have to say is that I should not have been doing music, but you should have, and your songs are great.
You couldn't sing.
No, well, I mean, you could sing like a Bob Dylan kind of way, you know. But you should. Do you play all your songs for these people?
Not really.
I mean, some of them are really good.
I've played some of them. I put some songs out there that
1, 2, 3, 4, ever in debt.
They like that
building 7 set.
That's not how it goes.
That's how you sing it.
Your impression is terrible.
It's good. Trust me.
Your impression's not good. I'm still holding on to this stupid ad.
You know what your problem is? You're incredibly selfish. And you're demented.
That's
you have two problems.
Is that what I I think both are still accurate. But Peter, like when we were kids,
that's what you say to everyone. You say, all right. You say you have two problems. You're incredibly selfish, and you're demented.
Oh, that's funny because I'm realizing where you're getting this from. Peter, there's so much stuff about Peter that I really want to talk about. When we were kids. And until we were like in our mid-20s or late 20s, Peter worked in the Diamond District.
Yeah, that's not interesting.
It's totally
no, it's not. Nothing. I was a messenger. I happened to be, messaging diamonds as opposed
Peter
to documents.
was this weirdo kid with his big hair and his strange mind, picking up diamonds from Hasidic Jews and bringing them to other Hasidic Jews.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything funny from them?
No, I mean
nothing funny happened.
I mean, except Hasidic Jews. The way they talk, I don't want to. It's different now. In 2019, you can't make fun of people's accents.
You can.
No, you cannot.
Can.
You can.
Yeah.
I guess you can make fun of Hasidic
You made fun
Jew.
of my accent. Please do a little.
That's different.
Do a little
Hasidic Jew. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You like Bechne?
What is that?
Bechne?
What is that?
Who you like? Bechne Sanders. You like Bechne?
What is that?
Bechne Sanders. That's how Jews say Bernie Sanders.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Because the Hasidic Jews that I deal with today talk about. I deal with them like in my job right now, and they always talk about politics, but not about like policy or something. They say stuff like, do I think Donald Trump would make a good pope and stuff like that. Like but they talk about Bernie Sanders all the time, and that's how they say his name.
And you don't remember anything funny being a diamond courier?
I mean, I don't know. It was just not really. No, I don't.
It was funny to me that you got to do that. You did that for like 10 years.
Uh-huh.
You delivered diamonds.
I know. I shouldn't have been doing that. I was a mess. I mean...
Okay, hold on. Here we go. So you shouldn't have been playing in the band.
Yeah.
Which I disagree with, because it was fun. But you shouldn't have been currying diamonds. I probably agree with that. What have you done in your life that you think you should have done?
What have I done in my life that I think I should have done?
Yes.
Well, when I finally got my job in sports betting,
well, this is important.
I did
this in there.
I did the best that I could at that job, which was the right thing to do.
Now, many years ago, we're talking 25 years ago. All I knew about Peter was he could do a Jamaican accent. He admired the way I could talk to strangers. And yes,
I'll tell you that when we used to ride the trains, this is in New York City in 1990, we would ride on the train in New York City.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember this?
No.
Or in the street, we'd be just sitting on the train where everyone is like, and there would be some attractive woman on the train, like sitting across from us, and Dave would just stare at her. She'd get uncomfortable, and then he'd go loud so that everyone could hear, "You're beautiful."
I would not do that.
You said you did that exact thing one time. Yes, we were on the train once, and you looked at her and you said, "You're beautiful," and then she got all uncomfortable and looked away, and then you turned to me and you said, "I made her uncomfortable."
That
literally happened.
I don't believe that. I don't believe
this was on the train in New York City.
Take this piece out of the show.
No, leave it in. Are you kidding me? Leave it in.
Can you say so? You can't.
That's exactly who you were back then.
That's not admirable.
You would hit on chicks in the street all the time,
and.
About I would say 2/3 of the time they felt uncomfortable, and about 1/3 of the time they responded positively in some way.
This is the worst review of my prowess I've ever
about
heard.
10 or 15. What do you mean the worst review? Are you hitting on chicks in the street at that time was like a 5% proposition for most people. For you, it was like a 30% proposition.
You don't talk about it with any sort of admiration, though.
Are you kidding? I was extremely impressed, and I was like, at that point because this was before the internet, so I was a lot less wise. Not that I'm wise now, but at that point,
you think
I was
the internet made you wiser?
Oh, definitely. Because you just have access to information that wasn't there. When we were growing up, you had your parents, and you had cable TV, and you had your friends, and that was it. You know what I mean? Now you can access the whole world, but growing up, you had TV, and that's why if you had fucked up parents, you were in big trouble. You know what I mean? Because there was not much else, not many other ways to get information to learn about the world except from TV and obviously your friends and your friends' parents and stuff like that. But most people back then were primarily influenced by their parents, and now it's a lot different. I've talked to people about it actually who have kids.
I don't think I learned that much from the internet at all.
From the internet?
Yeah.
Well, if you needed to, I learned. I don't know when I learned what I learned. But my point is
you just painted me as some sort of person who bothered women on the train.
No, you didn't bother them. You were.
I was a kid.
Yes, you were flirting / hitting on them in a way that you wanted to, and it made them uncomfortable just because that's how New York City. You don't remember this, Dave? I'm
going to take this out of the show.
No, are you serious?
I can't live with this kind of. This is a Me Too generation. It's not good for me.
No, don't. No. Oh no, it wasn't. You didn't harass anyone. You did what you wanted to do, and that made people uncomfortable. But it's because of New York City. You don't remember this? You were preternaturally social. and you would just talk to anyone, say hi to anyone. Don't you remember when we were in a club one day and you went up to, remember that guy who was the guy from who won that the VJ contest at MTV?
Oh, Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse. And you went up to him and was like, "Yo, I'm Dave," and he was like, "Do I know you?" And you were like, "Yeah," and he was like, "From where?" And you were like, "From the street," and he was like, "Oh yeah." You don't remember this?
No, but I do remember seeing him on the street.
Yes, you talked to everyone, including women. It wasn't just women, but like you would talk to like random people.
You know
too.
who I saw on the street yesterday?
Who?
Elvis Costello.
Okay,
fucking walking down the street, and I see this family, and the kid's holding this tote bag, and it says Liverpool, and I was like, that's interesting. And there's Elvis Costello. And I walked up to him and went, "Hey, man, I'm Dave. You're beautiful."
No, but yes, you.
I did went up to him and I shook his hand. And I said, "I'm Dave.
I'm sure you did.
I said, "I love your stuff."
And you. So when
I wish I had recorded him for the show.
When we were like 19 and 20, like that's what you did. You talked to everyone, including women, but that you found attractive, but not just women that you found attractive. And yeah. That was who you were back then. And yeah, I did find it like, it blew my mind because I was the opposite. Again, I was the opposite. I was like, anytime I walk down the street, don't make eye contact with anyone. I was like, don't hit on chicks ever. Even chicks who've like told me that they think I'm cute, like don't hit on them either, because I was like, messed up in the opposite direction. So you were like just your whole attitude was mind blowing to me. And, but yeah, that's what, how do we start talking about this?
Because we were going to get to, I was going to get to the fact that out of nowhere, I had known you forever as a musician, singer, friend, Jamaican impersonator type. And then all of a sudden, you moved to Costa Rica to handicap sporting events. I was like, dude, I was one of your best friends. I never watched you watch a game.
I didn't. Well, it was because well, first of all, when I got involved with that, I think that was like right when you were really deep into your addiction. So we were not talking. It wasn't because of the fallout or anything. It was just because it was impossible to be. Well, you know what it's like. It's like it's impossible to be have a relationship with a junkie because it's just too hard. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, the thing is that like, there's no barrier to entry in sports betting. You know what I mean? If you can, step up to the plate. And when sports betting, started to explode on the internet, there were a lot of ways to make a little bit of money easily because there were so many like, new companies that were just throwing money around and it was unregulated. There was a ton of money coming into it. So that's how I got involved in it. And then, one thing led to another and I wound up in Costa Rica doing what I did for a long time.
And he was this, Peter was this kind of an internet video guy, handicapping sporting events. And he built up a following that might be bigger than the Dopey Nation. I doubt it. But it's close. It was a pretty big following. And Peter, did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? The experience?
Oh, I loved it. Well, it was because it was like I finally had a job that was like suited to me. You know what I mean?
It was suited to you how?
Because kind of like being on camera and joking around and hosting a show was something that I was naturally kind of good at. You know what I mean?
I think you were good at it. And
you remember we used to make shows at Burley Bear? You remember that? I did a few shows with you at Burley Bear. You remember?
You did one thing.
No, two.
What was the things you did?
I did a couple of promos.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I did one where I did one of my hip hop characters once. I did that.
I don't remember that. What was that?
Yeah. I don't remember what the ad was.
Can you take me back to it?
No. But I did a few things. But the point is that like when I talk about like that I shouldn't have been like doing that music was a distraction. Like being in videos was something that was like something that I should have been doing. It was a natural thing. Not that I wanted to be that way, but it just was natural. You know what I mean?
See, I don't think I don't know. I think making this morning I was riding the train in. And I was watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions, and like I love the Rock. For everything that everyone says negatively about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I love it because I love music so much, and like there's just something about it. These people have been in it for so long that it really means something to them. and Stevie Nicks was getting inducted.
Oh God!
Okay, and she can fucking still sing.
Yes,
she wrote all those songs.
The live versions of Landslide is like one of the best things I've ever heard.
I have something I can play for you that's just ridiculously great. But she's telling her story a little bit, and when she was a little kid, her grandfather was a country singer who never made it. Okay,
yeah.
And she started singing with him when she was 6. You know, by the time she was 16, she had written her first song, and she said, "I want to be remembered as being a great songwriter." And I was just like, wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I know that when I wrote my first song, which was terrible, when I was like 17, I think it was called...
was that, If I'm Not Home,
no, it was,
I'm Out Walking Around.
You remember the song I wrote. It was called...
Further on down the road.
No, but that was a good song.
Yeah, a great song. Are you kidding me?
I'm thinking...
By the way, I make fun of the way you sing, but I think I swear to God, your songs are my favorite songs that aren't like famous songs of all.
No, that's a lie. It's a straight lie.
It's not true. I mean, it is true. It is true. It is
the
true.
First time. No, but the song that I wrote was like, oh, there I watched the private school girls. They walk right past me with the good. It was called "I'm Better Than You."
Yes, I do remember that. I mean, yes, that was
bad.
It was a bad song, but it was bad in a good way, though. You know what I mean?
Bad.
Like, no, but it was bad in a good way.
It was
though.
honest. It was
exactly.
It was a very
Exactly.
honest song. But the point is that here's Stevie Nicks. You know, she probably wrote "Landslide" when she was 16. And
No. When she was like,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is she said, I like listen to these people talk about stuff and I like cry.
Yeah.
Like she said, I know that even after I die, the songs will live on. And it was like a missile that shot into my heart.
But Dave, even after you die, the Dopey podcast will live on.
I
forever.
That's good and bad. I felt that. No, I felt that moment, and it made me wish, like the opposite of you, which is not that I should have been that.
Yeah.
I wish I had tried harder.
Oh yeah. Well.
Also, the thing about it is now, like, I think that anybody who tries to do new music now is like crazy because there isn't like the prize of money.
Well,
like
which is kind of a good thing, though, in certain ways. But I also think that, Dave, I mean, this is one thing I will tell about you, and your fans might not know this about you, but when you had a clear mind, you were incredibly energetic and incredibly ambitious, and you did try hard. The only reason you didn't try hard, because I knew you, and you think I don't know you. I do. I know you, Dave.
All right,
shut up. Right,
I want to hear the good part.
All right, okay. So the good part is that that's what I really honestly believe. I might be wrong, but I really honestly believe it was so tragic because you had incredible energy and ambition, and it just went away from heroin. It just like took all that away from you. But in your natural state, when you say I should have tried harder, you would naturally, go for it, which is one of the most important things a person can have. It's just that heroin totally sucked it all out of you, sucked all the energy and all the time out of you. And I saw it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Let's go to a voicemail
sure.
An email. But I want to talk more about your sports betting thing. But
why? No one wants it. This is a junkie podcast.
But what about gamblers?
Yeah,
there's a bunch of people in the Dopey Nation who are crazy gamblers.
Yeah,
and
I
probably
think
some of them know who you are.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. We won't. We don't have to reveal who you are. But we want to do a couple picks for a second. You got any picks?
For today? What do you mean?
No, for that next weekend.
No, I haven't looked at the games yet. No,
you can't pick. You have to pick that day. Is that how it
works? For baseball, yeah. We're in baseball season right now. For football, no. But
you work in a genre that is a crippling addiction to millions of people. I know,
and that actually makes me feel kind of bad. Because it's like I think sports betting is fine because it's a legitimate entertainment pursuit, if you handle it in a healthy way. There's math involved, which is interesting, but I definitely understand that the market is mostly fueled by people with gambling addictions, and that sits uncomfortably with me. You're right, and I think that's terrible. Even though it is defensible as an academic pursuit as well as an entertainment based pursuit.
Has the grim specter, the dark face of gambling addiction ever revealed itself to you?
To me?
Like in terms of your fans, somebody who lost their house or their family or any terrible fucking thing.
I mean, I think that if people actually lose big when in gambling, they tend not to like, unless they flip out and start like writing to everyone and being like, this happened to me. They tend to be pretty private about it, I think. And I think they try to hide it, you know. Most of the people that I'm involved with are pretty savvy about that. And if they bet, within their means, and they're either betting because they believe they have a legitimate edge and they bet appropriately, or they are betting from an entertainment standpoint and expect to lose maybe, but expect to lose
to pass the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not, I haven't been confronted too much with that, but I know that it's out there. You know what I mean? I know that it exists, or maybe it exists less now than it used to because people are more aware of it.
No
maybe, yeah.
way.
I mean, I don't know.
I have a buddy that I work with who is just so fucking. Like, his whole life is dictated by what he's winning or what he's losing.
But what does he bet on?
Everything.
Okay, because there's a difference between betting on sports and just betting on, like, table games.
No.
What?
He primarily bets on sports.
Okay.
But what I mean by bets on everything is right now he's betting on baseball.
Right.
And he's going to bet on the NBA playoffs.
Okay.
And he's going to bet on football.
Okay.
And he sometimes probably plays Dominican numbers.
Yeah, all right.
And, like, we're talking about somebody who does, I mean, like, the sports system is set up that it's a full year thing.
Of course. Yes.
And like, I'm surprised that I know this guy, like, if he loses, he's like, feels like shit.
Yeah.
If he comes to work, and he lost, or he also borrows money to gamble. Like, you've never seen that.
Not personally, but I know that it's out there, and it's terrible. I don't, I mean, again, it can be, handled as an academic pursuit. It can be handled as a recreational pursuit. But for people who have an addiction to it, it's terrible. And I didn't like that aspect of,
the gig.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Well,
although
the funniest thing is that Peter was in a very big operation in Costa Rica. He was in a big company, and he comes to do the show here. And he looks at the board, and he looks at, we're in my childhood room right now, which is my dad's office. And he looks at the board and he says, "Oh my God, my life is terrible."
Dave, look at your setup. This is like 3 inches by 3 inches, and you've got like a microphone, and that's it.
Well, when we started the show, we didn't even have mics. We just talked into the computer. And then we bought one mic that we both talked into. Mm-hmm. And then I bought a different board, but I decided to buy this board because it had more than 2 inputs, and I wanted to have Todd be on the show. Mm-hmm. So I bought this one was to get Todd on the show. Then, of course, Chris and Todd died. I've basically not used the board for anybody except me. You come in and you look at this, but meanwhile, you don't even do the fucking job anymore. This should be your future.
This isn't a board. This is like a remote control or something. This is like, look at this.
Do you have a board?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, I do. I think I do.
I don't think you have anything. What do you have?
I don't know what I have. Adderall, actually. Yeah, I took Adderall yesterday this is a drug show, right? Yeah. I took Adderall for the first time yesterday. Boy, I was flying. It was awesome.
Wow. But
Dave's like, stop trying so hard. No, I'm going to keep trying.
No, Peter is stuff. Let's talk about depression.
It was prescribed. Yeah, I mean,
why don't you talk about the cocktail you've been given
for my whole life? I mean, I've dealt with depression my whole life. I was actually thinking of starting a podcast about depression. You know what I mean? Because I've dealt with it my whole life, and I definitely feel. And people don't. I mean, the thing about depression is that, like, I know drugs are related to depression because some people self-medicate, with drugs. Although, like, I don't think that I think some people just.
No, I didn't suffer depression.
Yeah, just some people just like to get high, which is different. But I know that some people do, self-medicate.
I medicated, but I think I was medicating ADD more than depression.
Yeah. So what was the question?
What is living with depression like?
I mean, I don't know. I've been on all these drugs my whole life, and
why don't you rattle off a few of these drugs?
I mean, all of them. Zoloft, Lexapro, Allegre. No, I don't know.
Celexa,
the benzo. Yeah, Celexa, the benzos, the Abilify, all this crap. I'm just saying that yesterday was the first day that I ever took Adderall my whole life because a psychiatrist prescribed it. And
so, what else did he give you?
Lithium, that's it for now.
Now, I'm going to say something, and if you want me to take it out, just take it out.
Okay.
You've been to the far reaches of the deep end of the depression.
Yeah.
To the point where you say you don't want to live.
Right.
And here we are, seemingly having a nice time, and we've had a nice time recently.
Well, this is great. I'm happy right now, for sure.
Well, what changes?
What do you mean what changes?
Like, what goes from when you feel like you don't want to live to feeling like you're having a good time? How does the pendulum swing?
That's a complex question. That's a complex question.
Well, try to explore it,
I mean, I guess it's like when I see, when I feel hopeless and feel like, I've fucked up in a way that's irreparable, this panic sets in, right? And why am I not feeling that right now? I don't know. I guess that's a good question, actually. I mean, it's great to see you. Anytime I'm with people, it's distracting from depression. You know what I mean? There's an element of distraction. But when I'm with friends, there's an element of distraction and an element of like
good
love. Yeah. So, and that does, make a difference. And yeah, maybe if I was with, friends my whole entire life, I would never feel depressed. Maybe. I don't know.
Do you
That's
think
a good question.
That maybe when you were in Costa Rica, you were so isolated and alone? You never even learned Spanish in 15 years.
Yeah. Well, I went there and I dedicated everything I had to my job. Yeah. So
do you think that the isolation really progressed the depression?
No. Well, you know what progressed the depression was. I mean, the main. I was doing well in Costa Rica for a few years. For the first time in my life, I mean, the main thing that caused my depression was when I was younger was just like economic and educational insecurity. You know what I mean? Having no money, I was in debt from school, but I didn't have a degree and everything.
Well, I think really the thing is that your parents.
Well, yeah, my mom was mentally ill. Yeah, but what happened was when I got to Costa Rica and I started to do well in my job, I was actually doing very well for. Why are we going over? What are you looking at?
Oh, we're good.
Okay. I was happy for the first time in my life for a few years, but then what happened was I got because I always needed help in life. I knew what it was like to need help, so I was too willing to help other people, and I naively lent all my money to my friends about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and
it was longer
I lost
than
it.
that.
It was long. No, it was
because I saw you.
No, it was 6 years ago. It was 6 years ago.
It was longer than that because I remember when you visited me. Because it progressed.
Yeah, it progressed.
He got ripped off by these fucking piece of shit English hustlers.
Yeah,
types.
Well, no, they weren't hustlers. They were just way more incompetent than I realized at the time.
So they weren't hustlers?
One of them turned into a dishonest guy, and the other one was not a hustler. He's just massively, like seriously incompetent. And so I had actually beaten my depression, and it wasn't because of drugs or anything. I was taking Zoloft the whole time, but Zoloft never helped me one way or the other. And then when I started to do well in my job for a few years, it was great. And I remember thinking about marveling, like looking at myself and marveling at like how the depression wasn't there anymore. And I couldn't believe it because I never thought it would be gone. But then I guess I got complacent. And when I lent all my money away, then I really...
Which is a very suspect move, period.
Yeah, it was playing with fire is what it was.
But it was dangerous.
Yes, it was playing with fire. But I also honestly believed they were going to pay me back because they were the owners of this super popular bar. Jam-packed 4 nights a week, and I just didn't realize how incompetent they were. And so the upshot is that like I lent them all my money and didn't get, got ripped off of all the, the story. And then it was back stronger than ever, but for a few years.
Worse than it had ever been. Not even close.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of Peter's impression of me weirdly comes from the way your head translates my messaging to you.
No.
Yeah.
That impression is good because that's how you were.
That's how he was back then. That was me on heroin or me stoned?
Both.
The point is that, and I was very worried about you. I was worried about you and I was scared and I didn't know what to do. He wouldn't talk to me. He would just text me on Facebook, which is very frustrating.
Well, it's just like when you really have like bad depression, you get, I can't explain it, but like completely paralyzed. Like you can't get out of bed. You can't, like the only thing I could do would be like text message to friends. You know what I mean?
But I was kind of a dick, right? Via text.
No, you were always great, actually. What are you talking about?
Because I was like, you got to. I'd yell at you through text.
Did you?
I would just say you have to give up yourself and you're too self-centered and all this stuff. The thing about
in general,
I tried to offer solutions.
In general, your words were
encouraging.
Were good. Yes,
and
it's just that when you feel that way, there's almost nothing that can be said. But no, you usually said great things to me,
and I also really cared.
Yeah.
Peter, like. I mean, it was weird because we became close like in our later teenage years and in our early 20s, and we got to play music and we got to like dream together. And it was very beautiful. And
it really is just a shame because I was compelled to be self-sabotaging, and you were compelled to be a junkie, and it's just
I was a self-sabotaging junkie. But the parallel here becomes obvious to me that like.
But if you hadn't been a junkie, I don't think you would have self-sabotaged. I think you would have.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, it all goes the way it goes.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing to me, it's something that Chris and I used to talk about on the show as a tool to kind of stay in the clear of addiction or to stay in recovery. And he would use the phrase self-actualization.
All right, I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, I think he might have made it up. but what it means is to, it could be a distraction, or it could be to do what you love, or like Dopey for us was self-actualizing an idea of making a podcast, and putting ourselves into it was investing our time and our heart and our brain, and we would get rewarded with that interest. And I think with you, when you get to do the things that you like to do, your brain starts humming again.
Yes.
And that includes being around people.
Yes.
Like, I think people who are addicts out there that are having a hard time getting their shit together, it's because they're very much alone.
Oh, that's definitely part of it. Yeah. I mean, I've actually read, I find drug addiction very interesting, and I've definitely read about how like, I've read some, I wish I could remember it now, but I've read interesting stuff. One thing that I definitely, there was an article that was written by some professor who explained why, poor people make those kinds of decisions, and from their perspective, it's actually a justifiable decision to make, because it's like if you're fucked long term, then you'll do whatever you can to feel okay in the present, even if it's like destructive long term. But I read something.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I'll send you a link I'll try to find it and I'll send you a link to it. But
what about the listeners? How will they know what you're talking about?
You'll send them the link when I send it to you. You're a real piece of work.
Anyway, continue.
I hate you.
Please.
I'm not kidding.
Please.
All right. No, but what I was going to say was that, I remember reading an article about how something to that effect, something to the effect of like people who were recovering from drug addiction, if they suddenly had hope in their lives in some way, shape, or form, they were much more likely to stick with their sobriety than if they didn't have hope in terms of like education and
or just doing something that they like to do, feeling inspired.
Yes,
and I feel like the same thing. Like, obviously you're not a drug addict, but when you feel inspired, when you feel a reason to get up in the morning, when you feel kept company. I mean, Peter started working in the Bronx, and all of a sudden old comedic shit started happening in his head. And the same thing happened to me when I started working at this deli.
But that was, another reason why, also because like our friend Michael is being super nice to me, and that's saved my life. I mean, it's not just because I'm in the Bronx; it's because he's like saving me.
Well, he's given you a place to live.
Yeah.
And he's offered you his house, and he's offered you a job.
Yeah.
He really, really looked out, which is amazing. And the weird thing is that this guy, Michael, when I was a junior in high school, he took my girlfriend to the prom. Mm-hmm. Like, what the fuck is that?
What do you mean, what the fuck is that? Sometimes you get, and sometimes you get got. And that time you got, Dave.
She said it was a pity thing, but still, maybe I got.
Yeah, the reason she said it was a pity thing to you, her saying it was a pity thing was a pity thing to you.
Right. That was a pity thing.
That was the pity thing.
I got.
But what else is she going to say?
And then,
you know what I'm saying?
And then he married an ex-girlfriend of mine also.
Okay.
So kudos to Michael.
You got twice.
I've gotten many. Here, this is the greatness of recording at my father's house.
Okay.
My father is at an age where he has two phones in every room, just in case he can't hear it. And if you ask, hold on, we'll let this pass. Hold on.
Just what is this? This is pathetic.
And if you ask him why, he'll say, because the voicemail works on one of them but doesn't work on the other one. And then you ask him, it's a great hole to go down with him. Anyway, the point is that how comfortable do you feel in managing your depression?
What do you mean comfortable do I feel?
I mean,
the thing. I mean, I could talk for weeks on end about depression because I know so much about. I've thought so much about. That's the one thing that I've thought about my whole life, and I do think that there's actually, and I could talk about psychiatrists and therapy and all that. but I mean, the thing about depression is that there's so many things that can cause depression. They all get lumped under one thing, depression and anxiety. But you can be depressed about, like, failing a test, or your cat dies, or a divorce, or a disease, or some chemical imbalance. There's so many things or getting fired. So many things that can cause depression. They all get lumped together under one, and they're really not the same thing. And so it's so what's your question?
The question is, like, I'm happy that you seem good today, and you seem like for the past, since Michael has lent a hand, you seem much better. Yes. But like, are you putting anything in place to like ensure being positive, to ensure like? I mean, I don't know anything about depression.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking the drugs, but I don't think the drugs, for me, they don't matter. I'm sure for many people they help.
So right now you're on what? Zoloft, and Adderall, and lithium.
Yeah.
See, I have another friend who was fucking in terrible trouble, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and lithium saved his life.
Yeah. No, yes, and that's my point.
And it started with lithium, and then he started exercising like crazy, and then he used the exercise as this great tool to get off lithium. And he hasn't had, like, too many bipolar episodes since.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I'm saying, is that, like, there's so many reasons why people get quote unquote depressed or deal with quote unquote severe anxiety, and they all kind of get lumped together. I'm not saying that these drugs don't help many people in many various ways. I'm sure they do. It's just that for me, it's always been caused by my ups and downs in life are always caused by life events, not by what pills I'm taking. You know what I mean?
And it's the life event that triggers the reaction in you.
Yeah, but for your friend and for many other people, yes, I mean, the drugs do help, of course.
Or exercise or whatever.
Yeah, or all that stuff.
All right, this is supposed to be a show about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. We definitely covered dumb shit, and we definitely covered some addiction. I'm going to read an email I got, and it's... Why don't you read it?
All right.
Here.
Okay, what should I read? Will this see the whole thing?
Yeah.
It's like... Just
read the fucking email.
Dave, all right. Hey, Dave.
No, read it nicely.
Okay. Hey, Dave. I've recently just started listening to...
Read it nicely.
I'm reading it nicely.
Just read it like a...
You're a real piece of work.
Just please read it.
You think you're professional. You're not.
Just please read it.
All right, okay. Hey, Dave.
I'm pretty professional, though, right? I do a nice show over here, right?
You are.
It's not bad. It's pretty good.
I'll give you that. Give you that.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Dave, I've recently just started listening to Dopey after hearing about it numerous times from various different podcasts, such as NPR, This American Life, and Psychotropic. Congratulations, Dave.
Thank you.
I'm currently on episode 29, but I skipped ahead to the new episodes when they come out. I'm binge listening every chance I get, to the point I've gone over my data on my cell phone plan. I don't have any crazy stories other than the one and only time I tried an illegal substance in high school. A friend of mine had some dental surgery and had some Lortabs left over, so he gave me 2. I crushed both up and snorted them in my parents' bathroom on a hardcover book. Once it kicked in, I found myself eating ice cream with my hands and then had horrible nightmares all night. Lortab? What is Lortabs? Isn't that like
that's
opiates?
Something that we need? We need Chris around to know what Lortabs.
Holy shit! All right, that's all I've got for stories. Currently, I drink alcohol enough. I get nervous about it. I dabble in microdosing marijuana to help anxiety and depression.
Microdosing marijuana? Have you ever heard of that?
I think that's just
small hits.
Yeah, small hits of the swag. I mean, what is that?
Continue, please.
So I dabble in microdosing marijuana to help anxiety and depression, and actually it slows alcohol consumption substantially. I've been in a bad way these last couple months with depression, but since I've found and started listening to your podcast, I've climbed out of my dark hole a little bit further. You really have an excellent and captivating show.
Nice.
Except for this one.
No, Lortab it's like a derivative of, it's a combination medication used to relieve moderate severe pain. It's like fucking hydrocodone. It's not a big deal. Anyway, continue.
Hydrocodone, yeah. I just realized the only people who might think that impression is funny is Devin and Justin, and no one else. But they'll like it, trust me.
Well, Justin listens. Devin doesn't. Justin is going to be listening very attentively to this episode.
I am really, I send Justin all these messages about how, but I am depressed. I mean, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I am really interested in your music, though, which is the main reason I'm emailing you. I love the couple songs you wrote and played on the show so far. Yes, Sam, you should play them all your songs. Your songs are honestly great, Dave.
Give me a break.
They're pure music.
I will play the song if you sing it not in my voice, in your voice.
But that's like trying to sing a Bob Dylan song not in Bob Dylan's voice or something.
Could you please finish the email?
Okay, all right. I am really interested in music, which is the main reason I'm emailing you. I love the couple songs you wrote and played on the show so far. Do you have albums or any place I can listen to more of your music? I live in upstate New York and I have no plans to come down to the city, so unfortunately a live event is out of the question. I'd love to hear back from you if you ever have time. Toodles, Sam. Yeah, that's another thing. Another thing that really kills me is this, Dave. You want to hear something? I mean, I'm addicted to regret, but like
Did you say you're addicted to regret?
Yeah, but,
I love that.
But
would you say you're
when I say that I shouldn't have been doing music, the one thing though that I was really genuinely good at, naturally I understood, was sort of like producing music. I knew instantly how digital technology could be used to do certain things that I wanted to do. And one thing I always wanted to do was just record you live and then produce everything around it and over it. And
you've never produced anything.
What do you mean?
What have you produced?
You want me to play it for you?
Do you have anything with you?
Not on me right now.
Do you have any MP3s I can play at the end of the show?
No.
Well, maybe Women Off the Cooking Clean.
No, you mean right now or later on?
How about the Alms House?
No, I mean the point is that
dude, produce a record. I'll pay you nothing.
No, it's past the time, but
so you can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
it's over. Now we're just going to regret that you couldn't do it.
No, all I'm saying is that is the one musical regret that I had, that I didn't do my idea of just recording you singing and then producing it around it.
Well, I wish you had done that too. I think that
why do you sell your songs so short? You used to talk about how great your songs are, and now I'm telling you how great they are, and now you're saying they're not that great.
I think they're good. Yeah. I think I have some good songs.
Yeah,
I would say they're great to kind of get me to write another one.
Yeah.
And I stopped writing songs a long time ago.
Did you?
Yeah. But I do feel like I loved writing songs, and I did. I think my songs.
You know what people loved?
What?
The Spider-Man song. I remember that.
What was the Spider-Man song?
You don't remember that?
No.
I just remember being at your house, right? And you were friends with some sketchy characters back then. You were friends with all these fucking street guys and drug dealers.
Yeah.
What was that guy? His name Will Survive. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
You were friends with mad sketchy people would be in your house.
Yeah.
And so all these fucking heroin dealers or whatever they were, I don't know, I'm assuming they were heroin dealers, would be in your house, and they'd be like, yo, play the Superman song, play that shit, and you'd play it for him and be like, you want to hear it?
I don't even remember that song.
The Superman song.
I don't remember it at all.
I mean, the Spider-Man song. You don't remember the Spider-Man song?
Do you?
No, but how could you forget? This was like amongst the drug dealers at your house. This was definitely the top hit.
I don't remember it at all.
It was.
I don't think it exists.
I wish that I like a web slinger in the sky. What was that?
Way.
Come on.
You
don't remember this?
You're making up something.
Are you kidding me?
I have no idea.
I'm blown away that you. I guarantee you, Justin remembers this song. It was one of your songs that you used to play in rotation. But the drug dealers who came to your house, it was their favorite. That was the requested song.
I don't remember it at all.
The Spider-Man song?
No, I don't remember it at all.
I can't believe this.
I don't remember it all. Hold on. All right, this is a voicemail, very, very short that they were... Listen, Dopey Nation, if you want to record a voicemail, send it in to dopeypodcast@gmail.com. Record it with the voice memo tool on your phone and email it. We have this stupid thing on the website where you hit to record a voicemail. It only records 90 seconds. So people record on there, and they're like, I hear longer voicemails on the show. Record it on your phone and send it in. This was a minute and a half I got from some dude upstate named Frenchie. I just have to play it. Frenchie, if you're listening, please send in a longer voicemail, but not longer than 7 minutes. All right, here we go. You ready, Pete?
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
Dave,
I don't want to hear your fucking voicemail imitation. Hold on.
Hey, this is Frenchie from Capital District, Albany, upstate New York. Love your podcast, bro. I myself is one of your typical middle upper class genre that fell into the opiate addiction. Former law enforcement for 8 years. Opiates fucking ruined my life for a good solid 2.5, 3 years. All of a sudden started bouncing around, beating the shit out of inmates, just doing dumb shit that I would never do. Long story short, I'm clean now. I went to the River Source in Arizona, which is an amazing rehab last year. Don't have years of clean time or anything, not even a full year yet. But anyways, I got some crazy stories, robbing drug dealers, doing this, doing that. I mean, I've done some crazy shit. Even a gun charge I caught, all because of that lifestyle that I was living, And then I'd go home to my wife and kids in the suburbs and pretend like nothing happened. Yeah, hi. Started with pills, went to the bags.
Thank you, Frenchie. Send in a 5 to 7 minute voicemail about your terrible, terrible inmate beating stories. That sounds like really up my alley. What do you think? That sounds like a guy that would call into your show. Hey, Pete, who you like in the Boston Buffalo Sabres game?
No, I know. Yeah, you're right. There's a high overlap, big overlap between drug degenerates and gambling degenerates.
I love the sound of his voice, though. Yeah. He's got a great voice. Now we're going to change things up. But before we do, I just want to, we started this thing. When I say we, I mean I started this thing, this Dopey podcast Patreon account where fans give me money, which makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable. But it's fucking awesome, and I really appreciate everything everybody's given. In fact, today I went to the store and I bought a new microphone, which I haven't used yet. And I bought a bag to carry the gear because I've been using this weird LL Bean tote bag for 3 years. And every time I leave the house, it rains and the water gets on the gear. And tonight I have to go to record Dr. Drew's podcast, which is very weird. So I wanted to have a bag that looked professional. So the Dopey Patreon, it's like really starting to kick in nicely.
Yeah, I mean, considering the way, most money is made, doing a podcast and then asking people who like it to kick in a little bit should not make you uncomfortable.
It makes me totally uncomfortable.
Why?
Are you going to do some sort of gambling podcast or a depression podcast?
I might. I have. I do. If there's anyone who knows me from the betting world, I want to say a huge shout out to all those people, who might be listening to this from that world. Because
like Jimmy the Bag.
I will say this. I will say this. Like, when you do something like this, a podcast or whatever, and there's people who express their appreciation for what you do, it's the best feeling in the world, without question. It really did brighten my mood in my deepest, darkest times in so many ways.
That people loved you on it.
Yeah, I love them too. You know what I mean? But I was thinking, but I don't know how much longer we have. But I was, as we were you were doing the other stuff, I was thinking about Todd, and I felt kind of bad about how I didn't mean to look down on him in any way. I think that Todd was a much purer person than I was, and I was just remembering some of the events and stories that happened in Todd's life.
Remember?
Do you want me to tell
Please.
it? The classic Todd story, because the thing about Todd, though, Todd is such a fascinating guy because he was I think he really was in such a, the only reason Todd's life was so tragic is because you can't just be a drug addict and Fish concert goer as a life. You know what I mean? Unless you're like a trust fund kid or something.
He didn't have enough money to pull it off.
Yeah, but it was just
more money than you did, but he didn't have enough money to be that properly.
But that's really who he was. He really was just someone who just fucking loved going to Fish shows.
Well, he said that to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you, but before he died, he just said, I just want to do drugs.
Yeah.
And I just want to go to Fish shows. Yeah. And that's when I have my fun.
And it was beautiful, because that's really who he was, So and there's nothing wrong with it. I was just going to say, because I was thinking about Todd, and when I first met Todd, I felt it was it's not. I didn't understand him as well as I did later on, and it also felt like a reflection of a bad road that I was headed down. Even though I wasn't a drug addict myself, I was headed down a bad road. But I just remember when. Do you remember this story when I forgot whether I was there or not? But we were in the car. This is classic Todd, right? Driving in the car, and "Welcome to the Jungle" comes on. You know this story, right?
No.
"Welcome to the Jungle" comes on by Guns N' Roses. Todd, of course, loves it. I mean, it was so much fun to just watch Todd sing along to a song.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget, I heard Todd singing the Eminem song, My Name Is What, before I actually heard that song. And when I heard Todd sing it, I was like, whoever made that song is going to be a star, because it affected Todd in that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? I heard Todd saying, yeah, my name is what? Man, I was watching Todd sing it, and I was just like, that's a hit right there. Like, Todd should have been his own single personal focus group for music. Just like,
that's so funny.
Whatever, however Todd, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, he just loved music, and that's how I knew that Rocker T was like a truly great musician, because of the way Todd reacted to Rocker T songs, you know? But anyway, Welcome to Jungle comes on. Todd's instantly in heaven, right? Singing along with it, like doing all the drum hits, all the guitar, everything, you know. And whoever was driving the car, like, didn't want to hear it. So they were like, let's listen. It might have been you. Like, let's listen to something else. Do you remember this? So you start turning the channel, right? No. Todd's still singing Welcome to the Jungle in heaven. You turn to like 8 different channels. You can't find anything you like. You're turning for like a minute and a half. Can't find anything you like. Todd's rocking out to Welcome to the Jungle. Finally, you get back to the original station, like, fine, and we'll just leave it there. So you turn to that station, and Todd's exactly on beat with the song, and continues singing to the end of the song with all the other shit that had happened in that minute and a half, all the other noise and music that had come into the car. Todd was exactly on beat, and when the song came back, bam, he was in sync with it.
It
was awesome. I don't know whether I was there or whether I heard it, but it was classic Todd.
You know what it reminds me of, and I don't know if you remember this story or not, but in the middle of college.
So I just want to send a shout out to Todd wherever you are. I do love you, and I apologize for being not so nice to you when we first met.
I know Todd loved you, and Todd totally admired what you did.
Ugh.
As weird as that might be to you,
I know.
You hate yourself.
Yeah.
Todd thought you were great.
And then when I saw him like take pictures on Facebook and stuff like that, like I started to appreciate him even more, because that's who he really was. He was just a person who just loved to like take pictures and get high. You know what I mean?
He loved life.
Yeah.
He loved music. He loved life. He loved people.
Yeah.
He loved eating and drinking and being with people. You know, and his life got very sad because he became such an addict and he became so alone. And he suffered crazy depression because he didn't have enough money to keep going,
and because there's nothing else that he wanted to do. You know what I mean?
But his addiction had taken him so far that he couldn't be with people anymore. You know, that happens.
Yeah. When I was living with you, it was my favorite thing to do would be to like go to the store and buy him like ice cream or a sandwich or whatever he wanted, because it would take him like 30 seconds to decide what he wanted, while he would be like totally stoned. He'd be like, "What do I want? Just get some fucking fish food or."
Yeah, totally. No, I remember it was a very special. It was a special, weird time.
Yeah.
That was a precursor to the worst times in all of our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, you like managed to get out of it for a bit and whatever. Me and Todd, like, we went way down.
Yeah.
Bad.
I mean, like when you told me the stories about what happened after I stopped hanging out with you, I was like, wow, that was worse than, like, I never saw either of you have a seizure or pass out or anything like that.
Well, I had many seizures.
Yeah.
Todd didn't happen to Todd like that. But he just had horrible arrests. Arrest after arrest after arrest. And it got to the point where his parents couldn't save him from it anymore, and he was in big trouble.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, the story that I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, it was not like, it was before all that. It was not as so debaucherous, but I was in a band in college, and we were recording like pretty terrible hip-hop music. And we all came down from Ithaca to record some sort of hip hop thing in a studio, and somehow you got roped into it. and we went to the studio and we recorded like nothing, or whatever we recorded was terrible. And then we decided to go, I don't know how this happened, but to Washington Square Park to buy mushrooms. Or maybe we had mushrooms from somewhere else, and we went to Washington Square Park to buy weed. But we ate like 2 ounces of mushrooms between like 5 of us. Do you remember that?
It wasn't me, because I didn't do mushrooms. Okay.
You were there because you didn't eat mushrooms.
Yeah, no.
But you were there because we wound up at the courtyard of our high school, and we were all playing basketball like in the middle of the night, and you were playing basketball too.
Okay, I believe you.
You don't remember that at all?
I mean, if you tell me more about it, maybe I'll remember.
We went to like ultrasound, and we rehearsed, and there was like Greg and Roland and Alan were like doing hip hop verses, and Jake was playing bass.
Those were definitely fun days. I will say that.
Do you remember that?
No, but just hearing you talk about it makes me happy.
Yeah. Anyway, So you don't watch Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Well, I do, and the last episode was on, and there's this guy. He's a film critic, TV critic in recovery, and his name is Devin. He's not our friend Devin.
Okay.
And we're going to have him on to talk about the end of Game of Thrones. Now, you don't know anything about it, so you can just sit out of it if you want.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah. And by the way, it's not like a protest against Game of Thrones. I just,
Well, Peter can't watch it. He was so depressed. All Peter could watch was near-death movies.
Yeah. No, not movies. Yeah, like videos or people's accounts of their near-death experiences. Yeah.
Now we're going to call this guy Devin. All right, so here we have film critic in recovery, Devin Faraci from cinemasanga.com. Am I saying that right, Dev?
More or less.
Say it right.
Cinemasanga.
And it's a Buddhist take on films and TV. And we're being joined by my buddy from high school, my friend Peter, who's a sports handicapper. He's not an addict. He's not in recovery. He's just a friend of mine. And he's never watched Game of Thrones. So you can ignore him, Devin.
Okay. Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I've also never meditated. So...
You've never meditated?
No.
Maybe that could help with depression.
I mean, I've tried, but
Devin, you ever meditate?
Yeah, I try to meditate every day.
There you go. Don't you think it could help Peter with
What kind of a question? He's a Buddhist. What kind of a question is that?
He's a film critic. I don't know what kind of an active.
That's like being like saying you're in recovery. Have you ever done drugs? It's like, of course. That's the.
All right, just relax.
Okay,
Peter.
all right.
How much of are you a Buddhist, Devin? I didn't even realize that. I didn't even consider that.
I am a Buddhist.
All right.
I got into Buddhism after I got into recovery.
And that's where that was the birth of Cinema Sangha?
Yeah, it was sort of, in recovery and in Buddhism, I began having sort of a different perspective on the films that I was watching. And so I wanted to bring those things to sort of what I was writing.
Right. And would you say that the Buddhist perspective of the new Game of Thrones is that life is suffering, so fuck you and Game of Thrones sucks?
I mean, life is suffering, or there is suffering would be the first noble truth. But I would say that it's a little more nuanced than that, and I don't think that Game of Thrones sucks. So.
Oh, Devin, I knew you were going to say that, but you're wrong. It's just, listen, Devin, just Dopey Nation, Peter, for full transparency, last week, and Devin commends me for my transparency with the audience, right, Devin?
I love it.
Thank you. Last week we recorded a bit about Game of Thrones from last week, and last week's episode and I didn't air it because I was scared that there'd be haters in the Dopey Nation who would be like, I don't care about Game of Thrones, and we had a nice talk about Game of Thrones in last week's episode, which was garbage, and Devin protected it, and he had some great points. This week's episode was just so terrible. It was such a sad thing for a Game of Thrones fan, and I said, Devin can't possibly defend this one, but please, Devin, give us the Buddhist professional film critical take on the final series finale of Game of Thrones.
All right, so I'm going to cede to you some things here, which I think the first half hour was way too fast.
Wait, hold on. But before we even do that, let's say spoiler alert to all the fucking idiots in the Dopey Nation who haven't seen it yet. What do we say about them, Devin? Rageaholics, perhaps?
Rageaholics, people who are seeking out spoilers for a thing they have not watched, or not taking proper protection against spoilers for a thing they have not watched, are just looking for a reason to get mad.
Daenerys gets the higher throne.
It's Daenerys.
Oh, okay.
Peter, you can't contribute to this conversation. Okay. Devin, tell Peter to be quiet.
Okay, all right, okay.
Peter, be quiet.
I think if Peter has something to say, then I'm here to listen. I'm here to hear Peter.
Now that's a Buddhist right there. Right. That is a fucking Buddhist.
Right, Peter,
okay, that's why. Yeah,
come on. Devin, please, let's get back to it. So the first half hour was what?
It was a little fast. People have been complaining in the season that it was too fast, and they were kind of skipping over beats. I did not agree until the first half hour of this episode. I would have liked a whole episode of the aftermath of Daenerys destroying King's Landing, and I think that Jon Snow goes from begrudgingly supporting her to killing her very quickly.
Very quickly.
More emotional beats. Yeah, I needed more emotional beats.
I was excited that maybe they were going to have sex, and then he kills her. I was excited that maybe...
They already had sex.
but they hadn't had sex in a while. He had decided he didn't want to have sex with her. And I think that was one of my bigger criticisms with the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones was an absence of heat. Game of Thrones was like about heat and war and like good writing, but heat was a big piece. And the last 2 seasons were very cold, I thought.
Well, I think that the show that they overcorrected to criticism that it was a little too much nudity and women as sexual objects. I think they overcorrected to that. But you had a really great thing that you said in the unused recording about why you feel like there was no heat between Daenerys and Jon.
Yeah, well, I have what is the word? My theory is, and I've said this on the show before, but I'm going to say it again because I do love it, that the actor that plays Jon Snow, Kit Harington, had fallen... And Peter, you pay attention because you're a fan of human nature.
Okay, yes.
Kit Harington had fallen in love with an actress that was on the show who played a wildling character named Ygritte. Mm-hmm. And in real life, they had an affair, and they fell in love, and they got married. Now, in the show, Jon Snow falls in love with Daenerys, but there's no chemistry between the two of them in the show. And my theory was because he had actually fallen in love with an actress on the show, he was nervous about falling in love again and fucking up his marriage. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, sounds plausible.
All right, but Devin liked that theory.
Okay.
It really expanded my mind. I was pretty impressed by that theory. I don't like speculating on other people's lives, but
one of the hallmarks of Buddhism is don't get impressed by anything. So you really did something. That absolutely is.
Is that a hallmark of Buddhism to not get impressed by anything,
or to at least try your best not to?
That's not a hallmark of Buddhism.
It is not.
No,
you don't know anything. I'm going to shut.
If you don't turn off my mic,
I'm
Dave.
going to shut his mic.
Don't.
I'm sorry, Devin. Continue.
It's okay.
How could not being impressed with anything could be a hallmark of Buddhism?
Because you're not supposed to have attachments. It's like, do you think that was great? And you're like,
different, right?
You're like,
that's different. You can be impressed or in awe of things, but not become attached to them and move through the how you feel about them, understanding that your feelings will change, and that the being impressed or being in awe eventually dies down, and that's okay.
But I thought
it's great to experience those things, just don't become attached to them.
Okay, I thought that Buddhists are supposed to think that all opinions are equal, like when they really hit enlightenment, and all achievements are equal.
I mean, so there's like this idea that you should be very open to understanding you don't know anything.
Yes.
Be open to all ideas, and to try not to hold any opinions because you probably are wrong,
and to not be impressed by others' opinions.
I don't think that the argument would be that all opinions are equal.
I think
that we should be open to them.
Okay, fair enough.
Listen, so what's wrong? Peter, I'm not impressed with Peter on the show, but I'm more interested in, and I really want to hear. I've read a bunch of stories or articles about why the Game of Thrones finale wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But there were so many things that I thought were bad. I agree. They could have done a whole episode about the aftermath of the destruction of King's Landing.
Right. I think this is a show that earned an entire episode of epilogue. So like after Daenerys dies and they jump ahead a bunch of weeks and then they have that council. Like that council could have been a half hour long. I don't think that we would have been mad about that.
Wow, how did they choose that council?
An hour and a half.
That council was like the worst council I ever saw, and they were such scrubs about it too. The way they spoke.
But there was nobody left. That's why, because those are the heads of the great houses, and all of the heads of the great houses have been killed off in the previous 10 years.
But Devin, they march Tyrion out of the jail. You know, he's supposed to get executed, but instead of getting executed, he picks the next king, who happens to not be able to put a sentence together. He's such a bad fucking actor. That fucking Bran, God bless him. And Tyrion, fucking filthy, in chains, you know, black soot in his beard, looking kind of like Peter looks right now, I should say. Fucking, they're going to listen to him when they should be executing him. What do you think about that?
I think that it's a real testament to how Tyrion is one of the great speakers and reasoners of the world of Westeros.
I think you're reaching.
Pulled one over on them.
I want to ask you this,
I'm
Devin.
not, because when he comes out, he says to them, "I've been thinking about this for weeks," and he walked into that trial with the plan to put somebody on the throne and become the hand of that person. He knew exactly what he was doing. I think that the show just didn't hold our hands through it, but I 100% believe that Tyrion has used all of the political wiles that he learned over the course of the show and figured out the best scenario that was going to save his ass and give him what he wanted, which was to be the guy technically in charge. He's technically in charge of the Six Kingdoms at the end.
Well, how
because
can
Bran is more interested in fucking off looking for dragons.
But how can Bran not be attached to being the three-eyed raven, the fucking wizard of wizards, whatever? Like, he all of a sudden is tempted by worldly pleasure at the end, I thought.
I don't know that he is. I think that he recognizes, I think that the situation is he recognizes that it's going to be Tyrion who's running everything. And so that's why that scene happens when Bran comes into the council at the end, the small council, and he's like, look, I'm sure you guys have this under control. I'm going to go look for dragons. That's what he's interested in. He's going to go off and do the things that he wants to do as Three-Eyed Raven, and he knows that Tyrion, who has learned the hard way how important the small folk are and what it is that actually maintains peace and happiness, he knows that Tyrion is going to take care of all that stuff. So I don't think that Bran is like going to be doing a lot of king stuff. I think that he'll show up and he'll, wave and stuff like that. But Tyrion is running the kingdom.
Well, why does Grey Worm not just fucking kill Tyrion and Jon Snow?
I have no idea.
He would kill them. He would murder them right where they stood. Or there would be a fight.
I don't really understand. Yeah, I think there's they didn't show Jon Snow getting arrested because I think they wanted to skip over a difficult to write scene. Like, honestly, I honestly think that's what it is. Like, they could not figure out how to get Jon Snow arrested without Grey Worm killing him.
Right. I what about the dragon not giving a shit? Or the dragon just breathing fire on the Iron Throne? I mean, come on, Devin, wait a sec. I got two questions before we analyze anymore.
Yeah.
What is your interest in saying it's not terrible? You watched the show. It was terrible. Why do you defend it?
That's my interest.
Huh?
I enjoyed it. That's my interest. It's a selfish interest. I enjoyed the show. You asked me my opinion. I enjoyed it.
And where the fuck is George Martin letting this shit fall to pieces? Why isn't he saying it shouldn't be this way?
This is his ending. He said that this is his ending. This is how it's going to turn out in the books.
I heard he's an alcoholic. Is that true?
I have no idea, and I never like to say if someone is or is not an alcoholic. It's up to them to decide if they're an alcoholic.
I agree with that too, Devin. And I'm sorry. I just can't believe how bad it was and that you're defending it so much. It shocks me.
Well, I totally get it.
What was
the dragon thing is really interesting because I'm like a really big fan of like big sweeping metaphorical gestures, and the dragon melting the throne is a big sweeping metaphorical gesture.
Right.
But it also makes no fucking sense at all. And like I could not come up with a single explanation for why the fuck the dragon would do that. And then somebody said to me, "Oh, because Jon's a Targaryen. The dragon can't kill him."
Yes. Well, he could have.
So the dragon's really pissed. Well, he couldn't. Like, the dragon, because of the weird bond that the dragons have with the Targaryens, he couldn't. Like, and I accept that explanation, and the dragon was pissed off, and what he did was the dragon equivalent of punching a hole in the wall rather than punching somebody in the face.
I agree.
So the dragon didn't know that he was melting the throne. He just melted the thing that was right there. So I don't love it. I like it as a metaphor. I don't love it in the story, but with that explanation, it feels a little bit better.
I agree. I can deal with that. I can also deal with the fact that, the idea is that the dragon has higher reasoning than Daenerys, and Daenerys was crazy, whatever. But the dragon did burn the city down, so he obviously didn't have higher reasoning.
I mean, the dragons just love to burn shit. I mean, that's what dragons do.
I don't know, man. Tell me what you hated about this episode more than anything. Give me some negativity about this thing.
I mean, I really felt that the first half hour was really too quick, and I felt that Daenerys, I think, really did not get her due. She was not in the last episode that much. Like, she was a distant figure. And then this episode, I don't feel like she got enough scenes to really establish where she's coming from, because she does give these speeches a little bit that sort of establishes, I'm not crazy. I'm actually super fucking reasonable, and I understand that to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. And I wish that we had more opportunity to have her argue that instead of just getting stabbed after making the most rudimentary version of that argument. And she's, Emilia Clarke's a great actress, and I would like to have had more scenes to be able to do more with his stunts. I think she really got the short end of the stick.
What about in the Winterfell episode where it seemed like all the Dothraki got killed? Why are they all back alive? And she gives it.
They didn't all get killed.
Well, obviously,
we saw them riding. Some of them riding back.
I think there were a lot of just logistical short fallings with this thing. I think having it be a half season at the end was a big mistake because they need to stretch out the
I think
ending.
they should have gone 10 episodes. They should have gone 10 episodes.
I think that not leaving anybody for Daenerys to talk to was a big mistake because they made her giving a speech like the old speeches. When that time is over, she needed someone to talk to besides making a speech like that because it really was reaching. I 100%
agree.
It was reaching, I thought.
I 100% agree. She really got shortchanged. And
then also, what about all this talk? And this is kind of like a testament. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I started watching it as I was in a terrible relapse on heroin, and I was, shooting heroin, and I looked at the TV, and the first episode of Game of Thrones was on with, Sean Bean as Ned Stark, and I was like, holy shit, this show is good, and it just... For me, and I think for thousands, if not millions of Game of Thrones fans who are very disappointed, they're so disappointed they're trying to get a petition together to change the ending, which is the dumbest thing I ever heard. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I think that's pretty bad. I think it's embarrassing, frankly. I think that 1 million people signed that as embarrassing.
Did 1 million people sign it? Is there any way a show ever gets remade because the fans want them to?
Well, the worst thing that ever happened earlier this year, which was that they introduced the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog, the live-action movie, and it turns out that people really got upset about Sonic the Hedgehog, like his design, and they complained about it on Twitter, and the director went on Twitter and said, I'm going to redesign Sonic the Hedgehog for the movie. So it's like crazy.
Wow. So the fan, I mean, we got to wait for my dad's fucking phones to stop ringing. I'm sorry. Hold on for a second.
I know you got a lot of phones in that house, I understand.
Yeah, it's just too many fucking phones. All right, it's over. So you're saying that the fans changed the design of Sonic the Hedgehog. So, imagine if they decided, is there any way that they could ever decide to redo it?
Game of Thrones, no, there's no way. There's just no chance.
And
does somebody try to readapt it in 25 years, as a movie or something? Maybe, I don't know.
What about a spin-off with Arya going west of Westeros?
I mean, I'd be interested in seeing that. But here's the question. Does that mean that Arya's a colonizer now?
I don't know. Arya's an explorer. I think that they really, they did not honor the characters of this show. And I think that is the problem.
I disagree. Those characters all ended in exactly the places they should have ended.
Well, I felt badly that Jon Snow, I felt badly that he had to go back to the Wall. And then I kind of, was annoyed that he wasn't really going to be a member of the Night's Watch. You could kind of discern from the ending that he was going to kind of be the king beyond the Wall. And I don't think... Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think there is a Night's Watch anymore.
But, why not...
Because there's nothing for them to watch.
But why not have Tyrion give him, a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink, your life is going to be okay kind of thing?
Because Jon Snow is the dumbest fucking character on the show, and if Tyrion had told him that, Jon Snow would have said something to somebody.
Right, he would have been like, I cannot do that. Right.
I cannot do that. Grey Worm, you must kill me because it would be dishonorable for me to go become king beyond the Wall. No, Jon Snow's a dipshit, and so that's why he had to lie to Jon Snow for his own good.
Right on. Well, Devin, I love your take. I love
Thank you.
And where does it fit in Recovery? I think the recovery aspect is Tyrion's redemption, right?
Well, I think what's really interesting is that Tyrion and Jaime both have these redemption arcs, and Jaime doesn't come through at the end. And I think that's really great because it really highlights how hard it is to become a better person. A lot of people don't make it, man. And I think we all see that in the world of recovery. We see a lot of people that don't make it.
Yeah.
And just because, and so I like that. And for Tyrion, just because he's had his ups and downs doesn't mean that he didn't stop trying to become a better person, And Arya is another good recovery story. She's fucking consumed with resentment. That's her whole fucking life.
Right.
It's just revenge. And it's not until she's able to let go of those resentments, like in a really fundamental way, that she can move on to the next stage of her life. And the next stage of her life is literally exploring the unknown. So she goes from this assassin thing where her whole deal is this angry fucking circling around the same shit again and again and again, just obsessing over these people. She reads this list of people's names every night because she's a fucking resentful lunatic. And then when she's freed of that, she's actually able to go explore the truly unknown and find a brand new life for herself. I think it's super fucking good recovery.
I think the funniest thing is that if the show was half as good as all the criticisms of the show, it would be an almost good show. Everybody wants to save this fucking flaming piece of shit from being what it is. You know, I've read so many good articles about it, but the show fucking blew. The worst thing was that fucking small council meeting at the end. They should be fucking ashamed of themselves with that bunch of scrubs together doing shtick at the table. It was just so fucking depressing to me, personally.
I'm interested in hearing what your take on this is in like 5 years. You know what I mean? When the heat has died down and like the disappointment has worn off and you can kind of like approach it on its own terms.
No,
I'm kind of curious.
I see it along the same way as I see the 5th season of The Wire. When a show combusts, and for me, the characters weren't doing what they would do. And we lose the character. We get a weird take of the character. And you kind of get the feeling, even in the costuming, like it's more important to the show for how they look than how they behave. Like, for me, like when I watch this show, to see them dressed the way they're dressed, they don't act like who they are. You don't get them warts and all. You get this polished version of them with this huge budget, this sweeping cinematography, as opposed to the what they would actually do. And I think that's a failing in a show as opposed to a success in a show. I think Breaking Bad ends great. I think, like we talked about, Mad Men ended good. The Wire ended shitty. The Sopranos, they rushed it, but it ended okay. Well, for your money, what's the best ending of a series?
The best ending of a series ever is Newhart.
How did that? Oh, they wake up on the old show, right?
He wakes up on his last show. Yeah,
that's good.
Stream.
Okay, give me a more updated one
ending
for the younger members of the Dopey Nation.
For the younger members of the Dopey Nation, you know what actually had a really good one, and that is a really good show that's also got a lot of recovery stuff in it. It's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which just ended this season.
It was good. I never watched it.
It's. I mean, you have to. Do you like musicals?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, every episode is a musical. They break into musical numbers, and I think it's really inspired. And it's there's a character on the show who goes into recovery, and you can tell that the writers actually paid attention to what like the meetings are like and what that world is like. They didn't just like write some bullshit based off of what they saw in other movies. And it actually has one of the great songs about being an alcoholic, I think, that I've ever heard. But it ended really well. It ended with this character sort of understanding what was actually needed to make her happy, and it was not other people or other things. And it was just herself that was what needed to make her happy. And I thought it was a really great ending. So that just ended this season. I loved it.
All right. And if anybody wants to find more Devin Faraci criticisms, they go to cinemasangha.com, right?
That's cinema, SANGHA.com.
And we're going to talk more movies and TV as the time goes on. And I appreciate everything that you've done. Devin's been a great advisor with Dopey and a good new friend. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on. So just let me know when you need to hear my dumb voice. I'd appreciate it.
Right on, Devin. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
So that was Devin on Game of Thrones. Peter, you never watched the show?
No, I have watched it. And I think that the fact that Targaryen and Daenerys having a threesome with a dragon to make Jon Snow jealous is fucking ridiculous. I think the writers is a terrible plot twist, and I think the show jumped the shark for me after that happened.
Did you ever watch Happy Days when Fonzie actually jumps the shark?
No, but I've seen the clips of it, yeah.
Did you ever like any TV shows?
Yeah, I thought Wonder Years is a brilliant show. I loved it. I just like, after a certain point, I used to watch movies and TV shows. Like I loved, I think I loved, I don't know, all the John Hughes movies and Amadeus and Groundhog Day and movies like that. But after a certain point, I just couldn't watch fiction anymore because it was all so horrible. Although I know that I'm missing out on some stuff. I know that I am missing out on great stuff. stuff.
I think if you can actually get out of your crippling depression, that you'll be able to watch stuff.
It's just like right now, all I can watch is either documentaries or just like people's accounts of near-death experiences.
All right, I think we're going to call it a show.
Okay.
Can you think of any drug experiences that you've ever had that you'd like to add at the end of the show?
Fucking yesterday I was flying on Adderall, baby. It was awesome.
And I think, I got this last week. I had a woman on the show who is relapsing. Mm-hmm. She's a heroin addict, she's a drug addict. I met her when she was on methadone. She actually got a tattoo of the Dopey logo. And now she's relapsing, and I had her on the show, and some dude wrote in this hate email to me. I'm gonna read it to you. So it's from this dude. I'm not going to say his name because he got a lot of. Well, I actually put it on Instagram and Facebook, and a lot of Dopey fans jumped to my defense. But he wrote, after this woman Hannah was on, he wrote, "Dave, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Your methadone interview is someone bad talking it with you," which that doesn't make any sense to me. "Get a fucking clinician from a program or something like that on your show. Did you know the sobriety percent is higher with people who used medicated treatment in the beginning than someone just going to meetings? I'm fucking insulted, dude. You're an asshole." Mm-hmm. But it's not you are an asshole. Mm-hmm. It's your,
you are.
No, it's Y-O-U-R.
Oh, okay.
So you can see where he's coming from. And then I wrote back, that wasn't my methadone interview. That was my interview with my friend Hannah. You should start a podcast. And I don't see how I'm an asshole. Thank you for writing. Mm-hmm. Then he writes back,
"You're an asshole. No. You think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding."
He wrote, "Dave, you're in recovery." Again, Y-O-U-R.
But it's different. Nowadays, in 2019, that kind of, if you are going to accuse someone of being gay, you say you're gay. Y-O-U-R. Not Y-O-U''R-E.
Okay. "Dave, you're in recovery, correct? You shouldn't discriminate, man. Do you listen to yourself speak about medicated assisted treatment? You do a wonderful job at making your listeners who are on their current treatment path feel like shit. And if you think you don't, I don't know what to tell you. If you think you don't, I don't know what to tell you. You sound like the usual AA Nazi, man." Or maybe I sound like the usual AA Nazi man. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if you're going to have a podcast like this, then be open and compassionate to the next suffering or recovering addict. Someone with 4 years trying to live in a spiritual way, I think, would know this. I've never heard you say one bad thing about the rooms or sponsorship ever. And yeah, I'm taking your inventory just a bit, dude. Due to the lack of respect you have for a certain aspect of treatment or addiction or the process and path people go down, all to hopefully share the same goal in the end. I'm just disappointed, man. Honestly.
No.
Now,
that's a lifelong fan. You're going to win him back, and he's going to be one of your most dedicated fans, I predict.
Well, you know how I am. Things like this really bother me.
Yeah, I know.
So this guy, listen, man, I'm sorry I disappointed you, and I'll tell you this, and I say this all the time, and I apologize to anybody who has to hear me say this again. I was on methadone for maybe 7 years, maybe longer. I was a zombie on methadone. I was taking up to 150 milligrams a day, plus benzos, plus heroin, plus weed. I was.
No, I know. That's why, in the beginning of the show, I just assumed you were going to be dead because of that.
Now, my point is this. In the past, I've put down medicated assisted treatment because when I was on it, I was using drugs at the same time. But as Chris pointed out to me, medicated assisted treatment worked for me. I did methadone and I got clean. So just take it like that. And to be honest with you, you're one voice, and I get a lot of emails. You're one voice, but for whatever reason, because I'm incredibly sensitive and a weakling, and all the bad things about me, I care that you're disappointed. I just do. So I'm going to have a clinician on next week to talk about it because it bothers me. And do you know someone from our high school now works in a methadone clinic?
Who?
This guy.
Oh, okay.
He's going to be on next week.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Okay.
Maybe not. But he hopefully will be on next week.
Is he a recovering addict?
He's a recovering addict.
From our high school?
From our high school. Did heroin in the whatever you call that thing behind our school where those
really?
The
wait, okay, so you don't have to tell me his name, but was he from our years?
No.
Okay.
He was from a year younger than me. He's a very handsome athlete, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
All right.
You can say his name rhymes with Rooter Saloni.
No way.
I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. His name doesn't rhyme with that.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, dude, who hates me and is disappointed with me. I'm just not interested in having a podcast with clinicians on it. It seems boring to me. But then again, I just did a 30-minute review of Game of Thrones. What are you going to do? I do my best, week in, week out. Anyway, thank you for listening. And before we go, Peter is going to read the newest review, the Dopey review of the week.
Okay.
Here.
Which is this. Okay, what microphone should I use?
Either one. Okay. I don't care. Here.
The entire one? Wait, okay.
Here.
Title is So Relatable, So Funny, So Worth It. My sponsor introduced me to this podcast right when I got sober, and my wife and I are hooked. I feel like so many... Oh, come on, what was that?
Oh, yeah, that was my mistake.
What the fuck are you doing, Dave?
My bad.
Dave.
Oops, that's not right either. Here we go.
Dave just clicked off when I was reading.
I was worried about the level. Okay, back.
You're not a professional.
I was worried about the level.
You think you're a professional.
Right.
You're not.
Come on.
Okay. I feel like so many meetings are so sad, and sometimes they need to be to get through to us, but this, as perfectly described by my sponsor, is all of the stuff you want to say in meetings that you can't say, all the funny stories that you wish you could tell without glorifying your drug of choice with so much honesty and humor. I seriously can't get enough, and I want a Dopey t-shirt. Sell Dopey tees. Wow, congratulations, Dave. I used to get comments like that. Not quite that good, though.
Well, I mean, you're not as good as me.
Well, no, that's not it. It's because, I got comments better than that.
Just calm down.
All
Jesus Christ. Sell some t-shirts. Get a podcast together.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Okay.
Should this inspire you? This inspires you to self-actualize.
Yeah. No, congratulations, Dave. I absolutely am blown away by the change you've made in your life since I knew you. You know what I mean?
You disgust me. Just so we're clear,
I'm kidding.
You think I'm kidding?
I'm not kidding.
Anyway, thank you, Peter, for coming on. I hope you had a good time. I hope this snapped you out of your depression and your doldrums. You feel all right?
You're a real piece of shit.
Anyway, if you guys want to, let me know what you thought about the Peter episode, and if you want to, Peter, you want to have them follow you anywhere or no?
No.
Yeah, fuck them. dopeypodcast@gmail.com. We're up to over 1,000 reviews. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So fucking write a review at iTunes. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Reddit. Good things are happening in Reddit thanks to our friend Cormac who set that up. All the Facebook people, all the Twitter people. Stay strong. Dopey Nation. And there's my fucking dad's phone. And fucking toodles for Chris.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good. Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I want to take a ride up in the sky. Watch this aeroplane just pass me by. And I want to see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. And I wonder would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I want to be good so bad. Want to be good so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I want to call my dad. And it's all I ever had. 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 And these suckers make me mad, and that's all I ever had. And I want to call my dad, and that's all I ever had, and that's all I ever had. And that's all I ever had.